Herrmann's choice to get demoted in Chicago Fire instead of becoming chief doesn't have to be permanent, but promoting him in the future wouldn't necessarily be the triumph it seems. In fact, there's a strong likelihood that reversing his decision at this point would lead to tragic and potentially irreversible consequences for another vital member of the Chicago Fire cast. The fact that Herrmann declined to take the captain's exam and that he took a demotion to allow his friend Mouch to become 51's new engine lieutenant was the biggest surprise of the Chicago Fire Season 13 finale. Given his past, there is a chance that Herrmann will reconsider in Season 14 of Chicago Fire. Sadly, there is a price for it. Herrmann's Chicago Fire Season 13 finale decision makes sense after the 2025 1 Chicago crossover. Leadership doesn't play to Herrmann's primary instincts. When the 51 first arrives on the scene at the start of the 2025 1 Chicago crossover, his role is to shadow and assist Chief Pascal in overseeing the rescue and cleanup operation from a makeshift HQ at the site of the explosion. However, Christopher Herrmann's soon established as the type not to stay comfortable in that role for long. As the crisis intensifies and the lives of the 51 and numerous civilians are put at risk, Herrmann leaves Pascal to assist Severide in finding the source of the explosion. Herrmann's declaration that he needs to be in the trenches is the sole utterance of the crossover's title, so it can be assumed this is intended as a big moment. The 2025 1 Chicago crossover establishes why Herrmann can't stay out of the trenches. Pascal's supervision keeps him focused on the action. Apart from a few interactions regarding Trudy's near-fatal shooting and general updates on the CPD's investigation, Herrmann's interactions in the crossover are generally limited to those with the Chicago Fire crew. Between that and his choice to rush into action rather than remain in a safe location with Pascal, Herrmann's identity as a firefighter above all else is demonstrably clear. This means that Herrmann doesn't get to participate in the 2025 1 Chicago crossover's best character pairings, but it does make it less surprising that he later passes on becoming chief. What's arguably more notable, however, is his reasoning. Herrmann tells Pascal they don't need two people supervising when the battalion chief is already present, making his own oversight redundant. In other words, when there's somebody else willing to supervise, Herrmann's more at home focusing directly on what needs to be done. The finale justifies his demotion because Christopher Herrmann isn't a man who feels comfortable doing his job from behind a desk, but his exchange with Pascal does suggest a specific circumstance in which he might consider becoming chief. Herrmann's future promotion in Chicago Fire would likely mean bad news for Pascal. The show would need to give him a reason to leave. Since it's already been established that Herrmann has no interest in leadership while Pascal's still manning the helm, the only reason he would change his mind about becoming chief is if Pascal were no longer occupying the position. He says himself throughout the season that he has reservations about even applying to potentially overtake Pascal's job, even with Bowden's blessing. In fact, this was a concern in the writer's room throughout much of the season as well. As Chicago Fire showrunner Andrea Newman told Screen Rant prior to the season finale, it's almost impossible to promote Herrmann to battalion chief without cutting Pascal from the show. Detailing the considerations that had to be taken into account for Herrmann's storyline, Newman explained, "Somebody is going to have to go, and that's the mystery that must be solved. From the beginning of the season, the pressure has been on Herrmann because Bowden handed him the crown at the end of last season and said, 'You're the next leader here. You just have to take these tests to get there.' Everybody's been pushing for it, and Mouch needs it to happen for him to get where he wants. And Pascal comes in and he's testing him and is pushing Herrmann all the time. And the one person who hasn't stopped and said, 'Should I be doing this?' is Herrmann. So that's really where we're at heading into the finale, is him not knowing what to do and wanting to support his best friend. And at the same time, they've come to be a family with Pascal as well. It's not so easy to just say, 'Oh yeah, we'll kick that guy to the curb. Pascal's got his problems going on, but Herrmann does too.' Herrmann accepting a demotion was a way to resolve these issues to the benefit of each character involved. Mouch gets his promotion while Pascal keeps his current role and Herrmann focuses on the part of the job he cares about most, even if it means not advancing in his career. It's hard to imagine his promotion working out as well. If Pascal were going to leave of his own volition, it would have made the most sense for him to retire after Monica died. But Pascal staying at the 51 after his wife's death suggests it would take an even bigger tragedy for him to leave. Herrmann filling Pascal's shoes may even require Pascal to be killed off or fired. Can Chicago Fire promote Herrmann without endangering Pascal's life or career? His window for safe departure might have been closed. It's already confirmed that Herrmann's demotion will stick in Chicago Fire Season 14, so it can be reasonably assumed he won't be changing his mind in the near future. However, this also means that there's little chance of Pascal deciding to leave at the beginning of the season, when Monica's death is still fresh enough to potentially inspire his retirement. After keeping his position through his wife's death and his presumably stressful period as a murder suspect, it would feel tonally off for Pascal to suddenly now retire peacefully with no provocation. That doesn't mean he can't still eventually retire of his own accord, but it makes the most sense at this point to give Monica's storyline some distance first. Essentially, the window on Herrmann becoming chief hasn't been shut for good. At the very least, however, it's not easy for Chicago Fire to justify getting rid of Pascal at this particular point in time without something happening to him. Fans holding out hope to see Chief Herrmann one day might just have to remain patient for the time being. Enjoy Screen Rant's primetime coverage? Click below to sign up for our weekly Network TV newsletter. Make sure to check Network TV in your preferences and get the inside scoop from actors and showrunners on your favorite series. Herrmann's big Chicago Fire Season 13 career decision could still be undone in one tragic way. When Christopher Herrmann made his bold career decision in Chicago Fire Season 13, fans collectively cheered. After years of being the heart and soul of Firehouse 51, the character, portrayed with steadfast grit and warmth by David Eigenberg, finally took a major professional leap. Whether it was stepping into a higher leadership role considering retirement, or taking on a broader mentorship position within the CFD, the shift felt earned. Herrmann has always been the moral compass of the Firehouse, the go-to confidant, the ever-reliable engine operator who could be counted on in both quiet moments and the chaos of blazing emergencies. His new role, whatever form it officially takes, is the culmination of over a decade's worth of service, sacrifice, and emotional growth. But while the move gave Season 13 a feel-good sense of evolution, there's a lingering worry among longtime fans, an ominous cloud that could reign all over this hard-won milestone. What if it's all undone in one heartbreaking, tragic turn? For starters, let's not forget how Chicago Fire operates. The One Chicago universe has never shied away from trauma, death, or gut-punch character exits. It thrives on the emotional realism of the job, where stakes are high and life can change in an instant. If you've been watching since Season 1, you've mourned Leslie Shea, Otis, and Chief Hawkins. You've watched Casey leave, Severide disappear for weeks at a time, and seen relationships implode under the weight of duty. This is a world where characters don't get to ride off into the sunset, not unless they fight tooth and nail for it. Herrmann, despite his fierce dedication and rich emotional depth, is not immune to this universe's harsh reality. And Season May 13th have subtly planted the seeds for a future downfall, a tragedy lurking in the shadows that could shatter his new career path before it even begins. One of the biggest threats to Herrmann's new role is his own health, something subtly hinted at in Season 13 through a few well-placed moments of fatigue, distraction, or offhand mentions of stress. He's not as young as he used to be. The job takes a physical and emotional toll that even the most seasoned firefighter can't always outpace. What if the very decision to step into a higher pressure position exposes him to greater risk or exacerbates an undiagnosed condition? A heart scare? A collapse mid-call? The writers have played this card before, teasing medical twists that derail character trajectories. And for Herrmann, the tragic irony would sting. After finally achieving a long-delayed milestone, he could be yanked from the field by something he never saw coming. But physical danger isn't the only thing that could undo his big career move. There's also the emotional cost of the job, particularly the recent losses and stressors that have piled on top of him like weighty cinder blocks. From Otis' death, to dealing with family struggles at home, to mentoring younger members of the team like Ritter and Gallo, Herrmann has consistently carried more than his share. Season 13 only added more. A firehouse stretched thin by absences and departures, complex rescue missions, and the pressure to keep morale high. What if Herrmann, driven as he is, simply burns out? What if he becomes the victim of silent emotional fatigue, the kind that creeps in without warning and makes even the most dedicated firefighter question whether they can go on? And then there's the most devastating possibility of all. What if a call goes wrong? Herrmann, after all, doesn't just sit behind a desk. Even with a promotion or career advancement, he's still out in the field, still in the line of danger every day. All it takes is one explosion, one failed rescue, one collapse of a burning floor, and his story could end in tragedy. Fans have seen it before. The show's writers are experts at lulling audiences into a false sense of security just before ripping the rug out from under them. Herrmann's decision could be painted as a turning point in his life, only to become a tragic swan song. Yet, perhaps the most gut. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe my Fast Gossip 24 to our channel and stay with us.